Well, hey, everybody, welcome to Leadership with Chris Lindberg. We believe that your words can change your life. They can bring hope and inspiration and actually take your life to new levels. And that's what this journey is that we're going to go on together. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about life. And I believe it's going to add value to every corner of your world. And so do me a favor, right where you're at, why don't you hit the subscribe button? Why don't you share this with your family and friends and other leaders, and let's grow together. Let's have an incredible time. And today, I want to address what I believe is probably one of the greatest deficiencies, one of the greatest needs in every leader's life, and that is to live a life of buoyancy. You know, there's going to come many times in your life that you're going to feel like giving up. You're going to feel like throwing in the towel and saying, I can't do this. And I believe that having buoyancy is one of the greatest secrets to experiencing success in your life. You know, I've had so many people that have asked me the question. They're like, hey, Chris, how is it that the church has survived? How is it that you guys have grown from just a handful of 7 people to impacting now literally the globe? And I would tell you it's because of God's grace. Obviously, we've been people of prayer. We've worked really hard, and we're people of grit. Like we really are. Winston Churchill said this: success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. In other words, I say it like this, that we conquer by continuing. Like we just don't give up. And I want to just encourage you today, don't tap out. Don't give up. Don't give up on the dream that God has given to you. God has given you an ability. He's given you a call. He's given you a purpose. And so I'm going to help you today and teach you how do you become a buoyant leader filled with grit. You know, I think about one of my favorite gritty stories. You know, one of the greatest races in all the world is what's called the ultra marathon. It's held in Australia. Some of the best, most elite athletes from around the world gathered together. They are in their 30s. They've been training for years. They have all kinds of sponsors. And in 1983, there was a man, his name was Cliff Young, 61 years of age. He shows up to compete. Everybody looked at him and said, "Man, you don't look like an athlete. You look like you're ready to retire." He said, "Well, I think that I could actually compete in this ultra marathon." They said, "What gives you the audacity to think that you could do that?" He said, "Well, my family owns 2,000 acres in Australia, and we have about 3,000 sheep, and we don't have enough money for horses or cars. And so what I do is I get out and I run those 2,000 acres and I herd all the sheep together." He said, "I've been doing it my whole life. I think I could compete in this." Well, all the journalists, all the other athletes, they all laughed at him. But nonetheless, they allowed Cliff Young to enter into the race. So the gun goes off, and all these elite athletes, they take off running, but not Cliff Young. He actually steps out and starts doing what they actually coined as the Cliff Young shuffle. He just started shuffling along, and he just didn't stop. So in these ultra marathons, what typically happens is that these guys run for a period of 15, 16 hours, and then they sleep. And then they get up the next day and they run for 15, 16 hours and they sleep. But Cliff didn't know that you were supposed to do that. So the guy just started running and he never stopped. In fact, you ready for this? For 5 days straight, he ran without any sleep. And he competed and completed the ultra marathon and beat them all to the point that he finished 18 hours ahead of everybody else. And I'll tell you this, there's a secret in Cliff Young's life that I want to just deposit on the inside of all of us. And that's this: just don't stop. In fact, all the reporters asked him, they said, "Hey, what was your secret?" And that's what he said. He said, I didn't stop. I continued to move forward. How did we as a church grow to the place that we're at, starting with services with only 7 people in attendance to now what we're doing? I would just tell you that we didn't stop. We didn't stop praying. We didn't stop believing. We didn't stop working. We didn't stop striving. We didn't stop serving other people. We never gave up. And I would just highly encourage you today to be a buoyant leader, filled with grit, that refuses to tap out, that just says, I'm not going to give up. Because the reality is that if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to succeed in any aspect of life, challenges are going to come your way. The devil himself will attack your life. He will try to get you to throw in the towel and to give up. There's going to be times that you're going to get knocked down, but that's not the time for you to give up. That's the time for you to rise up. That's the time for you to keep pushing forward. You're going to need to become a buoyant leader. In fact, that was King David's secret to his success. It says in 1 Samuel that David strengthened himself in the Lord. Paul said this in 2 Timothy. He said, I have fought the fight. And I want you to think about that for a second. There is a fight. If there is an assignment of God on your life, which there is, I promise you this, that there's going to need to be a fight on the inside of you. All great leaders that are succeeding, that are pushing forward, are all high energy, meaning they get knocked down, but they don't stay down. They rise up and they keep moving forward with great determination, great grit. Because here's the reality. Blessings, success, growth in your life doesn't just come naturally. You are never drifting to success. No. It's going to take something deep on the inside of you that regardless of what the world throws at you, you become buoyant. I'm just not going to drown. I'm not going to be pushed down. I mean, you think about the Hebrew nation. God promised them the promised land. He said, this place is yours. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. But isn't it true that they still had to conquer? Isn't it true that they still had to fight? They came up against Jericho and the Philistines. God has made great promises to you. There's a great destiny on your life. You have incredible purpose. There's gold on the inside of you. But if you're going to step into your God-inspired future, mark my words, there's going to be a battle. There's going to need to be a fight. You're going to have to become somebody that is buoyant. In fact, I say it like this, that it's not the zeal of your start, but the fight of your finish that will be remembered and rewarded. Because the reality is, come on, wouldn't you agree with me that we live in a culture of quitters today? Did you know this, that only 1 out of 10 pastors that start in ministry at age 21 are still going to be in ministry at age 65? 90% don't make it. According to Harvey McKay, the average American in their lifetime will make 10 job changes and 5 career changes. 1 in every 2 marriages in America end, and they call it quits. According to the Harris poll, 78% of Americans say that they take less pride in their work today than they did 10 years ago. In fact, according to Josh Packard's research, 2.7 million people every year are walking away from the church, never to return again. Every year. In fact, you ready for this one? I love this one. USA Today reports that 100 million people resolve to get in shape every single year in January, and 74 million people break that resolution in the first week. Come on, everybody. God's not called you to be a quitter. He's not called you to be somebody that throws in the towel when difficulties and adversities come your way. No. You are a buoyant leader. You're one that's going to rise to the top. You're going to have grit on the inside of you. I think about Winston Churchill, the great Prime Minister of England. Years ago, when he was alive, he was invited out to be the guest speaker for the commencement of an incredible university. They flew him out there. He stood to the pulpit, to the speaking platform, and this is all that he said. He said, never, never, never give up. Turned around and went and sat back down. Everybody, may that be the motto of your life. Never, never, never give up. Life is too short. The dreams that God has given us are too big. There's too much on the line. There's too much purpose and destiny. Because the reality is that difficult times are going to come your way. And it's easy to want to quit when you're being made fun of. When God seems a million miles away, when your family is a mess, when you're a mess. But God wants to give you a buoyant heart. And so I want to give you just a few thoughts, observations, if I may, about what makes a buoyant leader. And here's the first thing. The buoyant leader is tempted to quit just like everybody else. And you need to know, just because you're tempted to quit doesn't mean you're a quitter. In fact, the very reason that you're tempted to quit should give you an indicator that the thing that you're doing is filled with significance. You know, even Jesus himself was tempted to quit. It's so simple to quit, but that's not who God has called you to be. The simple fact that he's calling you to stop, the simple fact that the enemy is tempting you to throw in the towel should let you know that there is success just right around the corner. So come on, everybody, keep moving forward. Because here's the reality. In my own life, I know that there's been many times that I've been knocked down so hard. I've been betrayed. I've had disappointing feedback from certain banks. We haven't hit numbers. Things are just not right. There's been more challenges than I care to even to admit to you, being in ministry for these 25 years. And I don't know how else to say this to you, but I believe that God will let you quit if he knows that the very next day you're going to get back up. Because I've had many nights that I can probably think about 20 different times that I've thought to myself, I can't do this anymore. I'll never forget when I had a moment here at the church. We had just became the pastors of the church. And I had one of my closest friends, a man that I trusted, a man that I really allowed to come very close to me. And come to find out, he was abusing the finances of the church, using them for his own personal advantage. And he betrayed me to the deepest point of my life, in my heart. And I'll tell you what, when you have nothing and the church can't succeed and you're not taking a paycheck and you're having to pay for all the bills of the church and nothing is happening and nobody is showing up, and the person that you have closest to you is actually betraying you at the deepest, most painful point of your life, those are the moments that you say, I just don't know if I can do this. And I think God will let you quit every so often if he knows the very next day you become a buoyant leader. You bounce back up and just say, you know what? If God be for me, who can be against me? And if you'll do that, I believe that God will he'll give you great success. In fact, I love this quote from Harrison Ford. They asked him, they said, how in the world did you have such success in your life? Here's the famous star of the movie Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And this is what he said, and I quote, he said, right from the beginning, I believed that staying on course is what counted. The sheer process of attrition would wear people down, because them that stuck it out is them that won. He was highlighting the fact that the reason why he believes that he was a success is because he just didn't give up. He had grit. And I just want to encourage you today to make every effort to be a buoyant leader, to be a leader that conquers by continuing. Because the reality is that most people are going to quit, but not you. Don't you tap out. You keep moving forward because God's hand is upon your life. Here's the second thing. Buoyant leaders see past the present to the future. Because here's what I know, that when you lose your why, you lose your way. And what happens is when you lose your why, you just end up going through the motions and you forget why you started this whole thing to begin with. You forget why the two of you fell in love to begin with. You forget why you started that business, why you got involved in ministry, why you started becoming a follower of Christ, because when you lose your why, you lose your way. Paul the Apostle said this in Galatians. He said, let's not grow weary while doing good. But notice this, Paul said, I'm going to be focused on the future. He said, for in due season, we shall reap if we don't lose heart. I'm telling you, life is going to throw at you more seasons of difficulty, and you're going to have to be buoyant. You're going to have to rise up over the challenge that you're going to have right now and start seeing into the future. So I want you to think about this. Do you know the national animal of Australia? Well, of course, it's the kangaroo, right? But do you know why it's the national animal? It's because kangaroos have a unique characteristic of their life. They do not physically have the ability to go backwards. They can only go one direction. They can go forwards. Hey, everybody, I'm going to challenge you to take a note from the kangaroo and to become a kangaroo Christian, to become somebody that says, I can't go back. I can't unscramble those eggs. I'm done looking through the rear view mirror of life. And instead, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to see past my present difficulties and the storms and the things that are going on all around. And instead, I'm going to be somebody that I'm going to move forward. I am a kangaroo Christian because I'm the one that God has called to step into the preferred future that he has for my life. Hey, everybody, don't let the devil bring confusion and discouragement and doubt into you. Don't buy into that. Move those things to the side and say, if God be for me, who can be against me? We're not looking at all the problems around us and allowing our problems to dictate our heart, our actions, our thoughts. No. We're going to go to God's word. We're going to become buoyant. We're going to rise up, and we're going to become the leaders that God has called us to be. Here's number 3. A buoyant leader is filled with faithfulness. I believe that faithfulness is one of the greatest qualities and characteristics that a person can have. And faithfulness is defined as this: it's the ability to carry out the commitment long after the mood in which it was made has passed. Because wouldn't you agree with me? It's really easy to be faithful when the mood is right. So when I got married to my wife, Tatum, over 25 years ago, and I saw her come walking down the aisle, and there's all those people there, and man, it was so easy to look at her and say, honey, till death do us part. I'm crying. She's crying. And we commit our love to each other. Real easy to do it when the mood is right. But what about when I'm going to be 95 someday and my teeth are falling out and my hair's gone and my eyes aren't working so well, and now she's going to always look beautiful, right? But I'm going to look a whole lot different. The reality is that faithfulness says, hey, I love you regardless of the season, regardless of what's going on. And we're all going to have moments and times in our lives when the mood was right and it was easy to say yes to a marriage, to serving God, to being born again, to starting a ministry, to starting a business. It's easy to say yes when the mood is just right. But a buoyant leader, a leader filled with grit, says in the good times and the bad times, I ain't tapping out. I'm moving forward. And that's who you are. Here's the 4th thing, and that's this: buoyant leaders are makers, not takers. In fact, I would say it like this, and I say it like this to pastors and volunteers in church all the time. Ministry takers, here's what they think: what will I receive? What will it take to just get by? It's not my job. How can I look good? Will it pass? Take care of me now and I'll produce for you later. And that's not what you want to be. You don't want to be a ministry taker. You want to be a ministry maker, because ministry makers, they think different. Ministry makers think like this. What will I give? I'll do whatever it takes to get it right. Whatever the job, I can help you. How can I make the team look good? Is it my best? I'll produce now, and I'll just trust that you're going to be able to take care of me later on. And as a leader that's going to be buoyant, if you think just of yourself, it's going to sink you. You know, one of the things that I've been discovering recently, the Lord has really been revealing to me, is how alive and how much of the flesh there is on the inside of me still there. Because listen, when your old flesh man is dead, dead people don't get angry. Dead people don't get jealous. Dead people don't get involved in all kinds of different drama, and dead people don't gossip, and dead people don't. Listen, why? Because they're dead, right? And what I've realized is that there are parts of my life that I go, man, I didn't even realize that I've got those areas. It's very much alive. There's an entitlement in different parts of my life. There's pride in parts of my life. There's different things that I think, well, this needs to be like that. And I get offended at this, and I'm frustrated like that, and impatient on this. And I begin to see how much of my flesh is actually really alive. And when I put that flesh to death by the power of the Spirit of God, that's when all of a sudden I move from being just somebody that is focused on me, myself, and I just want to take, and I become somebody that I want to be a maker. I want to give ministry away. I want to bless people. So here's the last thing. Buoyant leaders, they focus on the finish line. It says in Hebrews, let's lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let's run with endurance the race set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. So you would need to know that great buoyant leaders, they strive to the finish line. In fact, if you were to walk into my office, on the wall of my office, I have one word. I actually had them create it and put it there. It's the word finish. Anybody can start. Very few people have the grit to continue on in the middle of the difficulties, in the middle of the challenges, and conquer by continuing. And that's who God has called you to be. So lay aside those weights, as the Bible said, and the sin. And there's a difference between weight and sin. The weights in your life could be just the simple distractions. I mean, how often are you caught up on social media, just wasting so much time? How many hours do you not need to be sleeping? You know, how much time do you spend in front of a television? How much time do you waste on areas of your life, or maybe even relationships that are not propelling you? Because in every one of our lives, we have firefighters and fire starters. I have done my best to prune out of my life firefighters. And what I mean by that is I don't want people in my life that quell the fire on the inside of me. I want fire starters, people that they encourage, they celebrate, they champion the vision on the inside of me. I'm going to move away from the different weights that slow me down, and then I'm going to prune the sin out of my life, because sin will kill you. Sin will take you out of the game. I say it like this, that your character is what protects the anointing on your life. The character is what protects the talent on your life. And so we're going to be people of character. We're going to be people of holiness. We're going to repent. We're going to look to God and say, God, keep me right. And then I'm going to keep my eye focused on the finish line. Henry Ford, the inventor of the great automobile, he said this. Somebody asked him, they said, how can I become a success? And Ford replied, if you start something, finish it. Because the kamikaze pilot that flew 50 successful missions was a good starter, but a lousy finisher. No, everybody, we have to be those that move forward. Napoleon Hill, from the book Think and Grow Rich, he studied 500 of the most successful people in the world, and he found that the most common characteristic that they all had is that they were gritty and that they were buoyant. And so today, come on, everybody, don't tap out. Don't give up on the dream God has given to you. There's a reason why you're here on the planet right now. There's a reason why you parent. There's a reason why you're in your marriage, why you have your business, why God has you there at that place of employment, in ministry. Don't tap out. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. But be a person that is buoyant. You float right back up to the top and say, God, I'm going to let you breathe fresh wind into my sails, and we're going to continue to move forward. And so I believe that on the inside of you. And I'm just going to tell you that there is gold on the inside of you. So let God mine that out of you and let it be a blessing to the world all around. Right on, everybody? Well, hey, everyone, here's what I need you to know. That this is a podcast journey that we're on, that we have an opportunity to add value to you, but not just you, to those that are close to you. And so if today was an encouragement, chances are you probably know somebody that needs to hear this message today. So why don't you share the podcast with them, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star review, even better yet, give us a great comment. And I would hope to have you back here as we continue on this journey. I want you to know I love you. And here's what I know, that when the leader gets better, everybody gets better. So come on, everybody, let's go out there and let's change our world. I believe in you. I love you. Let's do it.